paint a mental picture of the United States, like what sort of folks, what sort of people are, where they are, what would come to mind?
A huge, rich, and varied sameness, a great wilderness of malls and identical Wendy's hamburger joints, identical Walmarts, towns that look very, very similar all the way from the east coast to the west coast. And on either side, I guess you've got, you know, some more sophisticated clumps of population. But, you know, that's the broad picture. A rich and varied sameness, a huge homogeneity in this melting pot.
And the people?
I think the obesity thing is coming through in a big way now in the popular perception of the Americans. I think the fat, it's the land of the fat. There's no question.
And when you went there, did your kids point that out?
I test drive cars for one of many ways of trying to earn a crust, and it is noticeable that American cars are constructed with a huge, buttock ratio. It is absolutely clear that they are designed for people who basically have to be cantilevered into the seat, and you notice that.
Anything else?
America's a wonderful country. I'm an American. I have an American passport. I love America. You'll find no more fervent admirer or defender of America than me, I believe. What is the great thing about Americans? The great thing about Americans is they have a kind of earnestness that we in Britain don't have. They do have a deep sort of serious. I mean, we make the point about a lack of irony, which is obviously complete bullshit, because Americans do have fantastic reserves of irony, as you'll see from all the brilliant comedy shows now are American rather than British. But there's something. I admire the seriousness of Americans. The serious that they take themselves seriously. They do, and they take offense sometimes.
We'll talk more about that. I mean, some people, that's not necessarily a positive thing to say, that they take themselves seriously.
No, it is. It's a compliment. There's nothing more selfish or narcissistic or frivolous sometimes than to take yourself, to make a joke of yourself the whole time. The Americans pay the world the compliment of, taking themselves pretty seriously and wanting the world to take them seriously.
Now, how is it over here? Are people fond of the Americans, or what's the general tenor?
I think you're starting to see two distinct phenomena arising in people's attitude to America. On the one hand, there is a new political market for anti-Americanism, right? For a long time, the British political classes have been convulsed by Euroscepticism. Everything that comes out of Brussels, the common market, is frightening and dangerous and a threat to our national sovereignty and the flavour of our sausages and the shape of our double-decker buses and all the things that we love and cherish, right? That's Brussels. And I think basically ever since George W. Bush, there has been a new Americo-skepticism in the upper echelons of the British political class. There's a new kind of anxiety about what Washington is doing, and at polite dinner parties in this country, you can expect to hear people banging on for hours about the evils of America. And that's a new thing. But I think most people, America's still the single biggest most popular holiday destination. Yeah? Am I right? I think so. I think most people still in their hearts love America. Come on.
What's to love?
Everything. It's given the world a culture of optimism, can-do, the idea that you can make it, whoever you are, that, I think it's given the world rock and roll music, the single most important art form of the 20th century. It's given the world Hollywood movies, now unfortunately in sad decay in my view, but in the à l'époque, the greatest thing, another very, very great art form. And these things permeate the entire global consciousness. And it's, people want to be American. people want to go to America. Everywhere you go in the world, people want to get to America. Immigration is the sincerest form of flattery.
Now, there also, however, also seems to have bred some resentment.
Yeah, there's a lot of rubbish people talk about the power of Hollywood and this cultural resentment. You'll find the French whinging about, you know, the pan-dominance of American culture. Should I hold that? What should we do with this thing?
There we go.
You happy?
That's fine.
I think it's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that over. Resentment.
Yeah, though of course you'll find people who whinge about American culture, and you'll find the French complaining about McDonald's installing itself on the Champs-Elysees, but they all go and gorge themselves on McDonald's, don't they? And why not? Perfectly delicious hamburgers that McDonald's sells. And congratulations to them. I think the problem America has got is the simple envy and resentment that attends any great power when it is unchallenged. And I think there's also a certain amount of anxiety about George W. Bush. The problem, bluntly, is that he has such difficulty speaking English. And I think people are nervous of him because of his tortured syntax and inability to complete a sentence, rather than the kind I'm discovering now. But you know, I'm right. That's the problem people have with W. If you think about what happened in Iraq, I happen to think that Bill Clinton would have done ultimately something very similar. But Clinton would have been able to sell it far more easily to the global community than Bush has been able to do. Bush has found it very, very difficult to stop himself being painted as a kind of cross-eyed Texan warmonger. And some of the things he says, some of the slogans he reaches for, his kind of Reagan-esque reach for the, you know, what was it, you know, bring it on, you know, we want Saddam dead or alive, all that kind of stuff. I think that worried people.
He's also perceived, and Reagan was too. Let's you get that. Yeah, go ahead. Want some tape or something?
No, I'll just.
Why don't I just hold it like that?
No, because it'll look odd.
Hi there, Ollie. We're getting there.
I mean, as a woman in France said to me, she was a little bit drunk, but she was in the bar, and she said, "Well, you know, we recognize that the American people are not their leaders; that they're separate. But then you elected him a second time, and now we're wondering about the American people. I mean, there is a perception that there's this large mass of kind of Bible-beating, you know, sort of right-wingers who are considerably to the right of what somebody in England or in Europe would be. The default position here.
Yeah, but you've got to.
Yeah.
I think people understand that the reason the Americans went for Bush and not Kerry, basically, was because they wanted someone who sounded positive about America. And the trouble with old Kerry was he was endlessly whinging and glooming on. And I don't blame the American electorate at all for going for Bush. I mean, I think it was a bit of a devil in a deep blue sea choice. But I can see why they did it.
Well, is there something about the kind of, you know, America, the perception is that it's a more open culture, that it's more optimistic. And I've heard the expression about the head above the parapet, speaking of England, you know, and you don't want to get your head above too much above everybody else. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I do admire America because I do think it's a place where you can get on and go as far as you want to go without anybody wanting to shoot you down. And it is certainly the case in this country. We do suffer a bit from tall poppy syndrome. We do like to beat up on people who are successful. In America, you become rich. It's fantastic. In Britain, if you become rich, we're a bit sort of leery and sneery about it.
What about America? One of the things that's given the world, it seems, is this kind of the touchy-feely, getting in touch with your feelings in public life. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I think that it's certainly true that America has led the way in politicians feeling free to emote
The politicians generally, public life, there's sort of a certain value given to sort of showing emotions and talking about things on television, kind of in like Oprah Winfrey and that
Yeah, yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
Our perception is that, especially for the English, that's been a bit of a
difficult
challenge.
one to crack.
It's a bit of a hill for them to climb.
It is something. I remember going to America a few years ago and turning on and seeing Oprah Winfrey and just being absolutely astounded. You know, these women saying, you know, gee, I like to cut myself, and Oprah saying, man, and I listened to this radio show with Howard Stern. I couldn't believe it. He was inviting people with terminal cancer to ring up and break the news to their girlfriends, in exchange for which they would get a nude massage. It was just sort of, it was out of this world. I mean, we don't have, maybe we should have that kind of thing on the radio in this country, but we don't. And it seemed to me uninhibited to the point of lunacy. And I admired it, I have to say, I admired it. And where America leads, the rest of the world follows. No doubt everybody else is getting into this touchy-feely, showing your emotions stuff. Look at old Blair, you know, with his quivering chipmunk chin. And his, you know, you look at that was where Blair scored. And the British public responded was in the death of Diana, when he came out and gave this very emotional reaction. And the Conservative leader, William Hague, said, oh, well, she was a very, you know, charming lady, and it is very sad she has died. But that didn't go down well at all with the public. What the public wanted was emotion. And they responded with this amazing Latin American carnival of grief with all the sort of mounds of cellophane. So all that stuff is having an influence.
What about, does that provoke a certain condescension over here?
Towards America?
Yeah, that's kind of, you know, somebody said, we interviewed a woman who said that America's kind of like a large dog, friendly dog with a tail, you know, knocking over.
You've got to understand what we Brits really deep down think about America. Shall I tell you the deep truth your viewers have got to accept, and they won't like it? We basically think we invented you. And you're our creatures. And you're our proxies. And because you happen to be speaking our language, which, as Bismarck correctly said, was the single most important fact in world history, we take a proprietorial pride secretly in everything you do. So well done, and carry on.
The end. That's the closing line of the show.
Well,
Do you need to run, or do you can we ask you another one?
Well, that did.
Yeah, you know, you were talking about dinner. In fact, it's funny because we did shoot at a dinner party, and I went to the last dinner party, and there were these casual asides, as if there was almost like an entry into the club of being British means that there's a certain number of things that are assumed, right, including that you know, everything in America basically is inferior than what America.
Oh, bullshit! Really?
Yeah, it's just,
I don't
Except they
believe
like
it.
rock and roll. They did like rock and roll.
I don't believe people. I think people go through all sorts of elaborate pretenses about anti-Americanism, but deep down, how could you possibly seriously be anti-American? How could this country seriously resent America after what America did for the world in 2 world wars, and you know, pulled our chestnuts out of the fire in a big way, and saw off the communists? I mean, come on. I don't believe it. Anti-Americanism is a very convenient rigmarole, but it's skin deep.
I wonder, do you think there's anything that is at risk at Britain from American influence? Is there something that might be lost that you wish wouldn't be lost or might not be lost?
Something that we get from America that
No,
we can...
something that you have that the power of America, the cultural influences of America is obliterating or is removed.
Oh, is there any threat to...
Yeah.
Yes, I mean-
you might lose.
You would miss that you would miss it was Americanized.
You see...
Maybe there's not.
I mean, you know, one thing I will say is that we've got to get rid of that Windows spell check. We got to get rid of the Windows spell check. And the word colour, can I just inform you, the word colour is spelled C-O-L-O-U-R, okay? And honourable is spelled H-O-N-O-U-R-A-B-L-E. That's the last time I'm ever going to mention that. Actually, get rid of the Windows spell check, and I think relations will be greatly improved. Gray. Gray is Grey. Okay.
You know what it was? It was just a sort of, it was being tossed off as if this is the way everyone believes, isn't it? I mean, there was this sort of,
There's a default. There seems to be a default.
There is. Well, you got to face the fact that the British ruling classes have found it very difficult to come to terms with the loss of their global preeminence, and they're naturally sniffy about themselves. I mean, that's the vice we have in this country. We're endlessly running ourselves down because it's a defense mechanism. We felt a deep sense of hurt and loss that we used to run the world and we don't anymore. So in order to palliate that insecurity, we tend to run ourselves down too much. And we're also snooty about the people who do run the world. But that doesn't mean we're actually being honest in either of these postures, either about ourselves or about America.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's true. And everybody's waiting for China to beat America.
China wouldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding. Insofar as China is developing, it is developing in an American direction. The fascinating thing about all the Chinese tendencies is that they're moving towards Americanization, except of course in democracy. But all the huge Chinese achievements at the moment are imitations of America. And don't forget, the Chinese spending on defense is smaller than the British spending on defense, which is peanuts. So I don't think China's gonna. You guys will take over China rather than China will take over you. Is what I think.
Yeah. We certainly aren't going to want to. People are going to miss America.
They will miss America.
No, sure,
They will miss America. I hope you get some people who are positive about America in your show.
And we will.
I mean, because
But if you go to France, okay, absolutely.
the French are deeply. The French adore America. They lie through their teeth. It's absolute nonsense. The French pretend Chirac himself is the single biggest Americophile you could possibly discover. He doesn't mean any of this nonsense. It's a way of. It's adolescent self-definition. That's what it is. It's the pitiful teenage squawk of the pubescent angst. That's what you're hearing. Of course, everybody secretly loves their parents. Kind of. Anyway, I hope I'm making my point.
You are.
Will that do?
Yeah.
Okay. Not at all.